Miracle.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to my episode of Master Bytch Theater. And this is an oldie but a goodie for me. I'm going to be reading the jail the jail letter that Jodi Arias wrote to Travis Alexander's family, specifically his grandmother. The grandmother is who raised him because his parents they had a very dysfunctional relationship and they were addicted to drugs. I think meth. And so the grandmother took him and his siblings in and brought them up into the Mormon faith. And so Travis was a devout Mormon. And, Jodi came into this, met Travis at a PPL convention. And they had a very tumultuous relationship. And it ended in him being stabbed 29 times, I believe, between 22, 29 times. His throat slit and shot in the head. And then he was drugged back from, where he collapsed in the hallway. Jodi drugged him back and put him in the shower. And when she said that Travis attacked her because she was taking pictures of him and she dropped the camera. So allegedly, Travis got out of the shower, soaking wet, butt naked, attacked her, body slammed her on the floor. She ran away down the hallway and then grabbed the gun that was in his closet, even though she previously said that he never possessed a firearm, allegedly shot him in the head. That enraged him even more. And then she loses all memory of the stabbing and the throat slitting, loses all memory. Didn't know where the knife came from. It just magically appeared in her hands. So when she was arrested, this is what I was playing. When she was arrested, she, lied and made up stories about the relationship. She said, she wasn't there. Then she said there were two ninjas that broke in the house and attacked Travis, and they were like contract killers. They came and attacked him, but gave her the opportunity to escape because they weren't there for killing Travis. And so then the next thing, she told that lie for about 2 years, and I'm guessing her legal defense team said that's not going to work. Nobody's going to believe that. You need to try something else. So then she came with in trial that yes, she killed him, but she did it as self-defense. But anyway, when she was in jail, she had the audacity to write a letter to his grandmother, to the family, and the letter was about 18 pages long. So I'm going to read this very verbose. I can't even describe delusional, narcissistic, Fruit Loop, dodo bird having ass letter. All right. This is dated July 28th, 2008, to Travis's family. Of all the letters I must write, this is one of the most difficult, second only to the one I must write my own parents. I thought at length of the things I should tell you all, but after talking with Detective Flores and Blaney, they convinced me of the importance of telling you all that I know, that you deserve to know. Now, I think that they told me this not primarily out of principle, but to build their own case. That's their job. It's what they do. I knew that. Nevertheless, their pleas have stayed with me since I last spoke with them 12 days ago. And the more I pondered it, the more I have come to agree with that 100%. For my brother, I want every detail that could be had. And if an arrest was made, I have 1 million questions for the person in custody. First and foremost, why? I don't have all of the answers that you seek. But as I sit here today and put pen to paper, even on Travis's birthday, I'm going to try to answer as many as I can. Because this is not a Q&A forum, I don't know what questions you have precisely, but I do presume that you gathered enough of everyone else's opinions to form your own notions of the kind of person that I am and the kind of relationship that Travis and I had. Since things upcalled me in this way, and since detectives have already made it clear that my case is hopeless and theirs is rock solid, I have no reason to hold anything back at this point. Nor do I want to go to my grave having withheld anything that might help you piece some things together. It is no longer about me and the things I don't want you all to know. You deserve to know. Besides that, Detective Flores said anything I might reveal about Travis would never and could never change your opinion of him. And since my fear was that was the only thing holding me back, I feel like I can now shed a little light on what was our situation. I have a tendency to ramble, but I will keep most trivialities to a minimum. However, I do feel that starting from the very beginning would be the best, so that you will have a brief synopsis of our history from beginning until now. This may or may not clear up some of your questions, but to me, it's worth trying. Okay, I met Travis at the Rainforest Cafe at the MGM Grand in September 2006. We later marveled and mused at the irony of meeting in such a place, as we later discovered our mutual passion for a healthy planet and the environment in general. He confidently walked right up to me, stuck out his hand and said, "Hi, I'm Travis." I cordially responded with the usual niceties and figured that would be it. Since in that moment, Kiss was just another of the many new names I was trying not to forget. I continued to meet other people as we walked through the casino, but Travis made it a point to walk by my side and keep a running conversation. There wasn't any kind of magnetic attraction that I could feel, but in that short time, we discovered just a few of the things that we had in common: traveling, the UFC, the 49ers, and the drive to create an amazing life. After that weekend, I didn't expect to hear from him again, but surprisingly, he called me the very next day. A few days later, he invited me to accompany him and some friends to church in Marietta. That following Wednesday, he gave me a copy of the Book of Mormon. On November 26, 2006, Travis baptized me at the church in Palm Desert, where I was living at the time. He said he never met anyone more prepared to receive the gospel. Joining the church was one of the best decisions I've ever made, and that has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. I know that Travis will be richly rewarded for the role he played in bringing me into the fold. Our relationship during that time was ambiguous and defined. There was no doubt of mutual attraction, but we were in no way officially dating by Christmas of 2006. Travis had grown to mean a lot to me. He was determined to Mormonize me further. So I received a generous lot of gifts at Christmas to serve that very purpose. Everything from a CTR ring and scriptures with my name engraved on them, and a copy of a painting of Jesus Christ, the Proclamation of Families, and a biography of Gordon B. Hinckley. His generosity never wavered the entire time that I knew him, not once. It wasn't until February 2nd, 2007, that we decided to make things official. Things went really well despite one small hang-up: Deanna Reed. I had no hostility toward her from what Travis said. She seems like a very nice girl, but he made it clear that she could, under no circumstances, ever know about us, because if she found out, she would freak out, and he was tired of dealing with her every time he tried to date someone. I was very understanding of this, and I had dealt with a similar situation in the past. We began to process the progress to the point where the talk of marriage became more and more frequent. We often talked about family structure, baby names, how many children we wanted, boys, girls, etc. Each time he referenced the future, he included me in it. To me, this was a natural progression. In May 2007, I had to move out of my home in Palm Desert because I could no longer handle the mortgage. Travis insisted that I move closer to him so that we could have a more normal relationship. Although he expressed concern for Deanna's reaction, saying that if she found out about it, it would be World War III. As great as things were going, something just seemed off about the Deanna thing. I knew that he still loved and cared for her very much, and I thought that was admirable, but I didn't understand why he couldn't just tell her to back off. So, in a snap decision, I decided to move to Big Sur, California instead. Travis was upset and hurt. I assured him it was temporary and that things would work out, but he wasn't happy that I lived even farther, so we began to make arrangements for me to move to Mesa. We had to keep it top secret from Deanna. It was then I realized that if Deanna was happy, Travis was happy, and then Jodi was happy. Sometimes things happen that seem like they're not part of the plan, but that is pure illusion. No matter how painful it is, we must trust that the hand of God is at work in our lives. After Travis and I returned from a fun trip to Daniel's Summit in Utah in 2007, I acted on the impulse and a gut feeling, doing something completely dishonest. You see, I've been in a few relationships before when my partner was not being completely faithful, and there's a distinct feeling that comes with it. Travis had been interacting with some girls in my presence that gave me some cause for concern. I knew he was the flirtatious type, and I had witnessed it on countless occasions prior to that point. I'm not a jealous person, but something about the way he conducted himself that time caused me to question his level of commitment to our relationship and to me. The dishonest deed, which I had mentioned, was that I looked at the text messages in his phone. I thought to myself, he said he has nothing to hide, so why not? A flawed logic, I know. I feel expected to find a few mild flirtations with other girls, as this was his MO anyway. And he was not secretive about it. What I found, however, was far more, including several references made of the many separate, intimate rendezvous he had with other girls, including plans in the making for further associations of the same kind. I checked the dates to make sure I wasn't getting worked up over nothing, but it's feared they were well within the range of when we began dating, air quotes, exclusively. I didn't freak out. I didn't even tell him. I didn't know what to do. We had another trip planned to Niagara Falls, the Sacred Grove, and Huntington Beach, so I decided to sit on it, get through that, and then make a decision. It aided me. And as soon as we got home from Huntington Beach, it all came out. He was very apologetic. He said it was wrong. There was no way I couldn't forgive him. Despite his shortcomings, he has been very good to me. However, there was also no way that I could trust him any longer. I decided that we should just be friends on June 29th, 2007. This was a very difficult decision for me because I loved him very much. It was especially difficult because he begged me to marry him that same day. He said things would be different. Up to that point, a proposal was expected any time, but the trust is gone. It's hopeless. I'm not perfect either. I violated his trust by reading text messages that perhaps should have remained private. My justification was I had the right to know. And I'm not saying it was okay. Fast forward 3 weeks to July 2007. I hesitated to follow through with plans I'd already made to move to Mesa. But Travis is a very persuasive man, and at the hand of his persuasion, I folded and decided to go. I used to wonder what it would have been like if I'd accepted his proposal, but I don't think things would have changed. Here's why. About a month before I moved to California, March 2008, we decided to have a come clean conversation about everything. He confessed that most of the time I've been living there, he'd been dating someone, Lisa Andrews, and the subject of dating other people had come up all of 4 times between us when I lived in Arizona, three of which he brought it up, and he stated that he wasn't dating anyone. I never had any reason not to believe him, because there'd be no reason for him to hide that from me. I'm not the type to have a crying, emotional meltdown over something like that, the way Deanna has, in the past. In fact, I would have been happy for him. So the shock came not in the fact that he lied again and cheated on yet another girlfriend, but that this time I was the other girl. I felt very ashamed. My first thought was for Lisa. I should tell her everything. But they long since broken up, and Travis had taken a decided interest in Mimi Hall. Besides talking to Lisa, not only would have destroyed our friendship, mine and Travis's, but it would have caused a lot of unnecessary drama and pain. After listening silently for a few minutes while he continued gushing about Mimi, I could see in his eyes that he was very happy. I asked him how she felt about him, and he jokingly responded by saying that he doesn't think she even knows he's male. We both laughed, and I reminded him of the charmer that he is and that it's only a matter of time. He then rolled his eyes and said, "Please, whatever you do, don't give me any dating advice. I get enough of that crap from Sky Hughes. I'm sick of it. I can handle this." I didn't say another word. If anyone knew how to win over a lady, it was Travis. So we left it at that. But when it was my turn to come clean, his attitude changed 180 degrees. All hell seemed to break loose. He lost his temper completely and flew into a rage. He began punching himself in the head so hard that he injured his neck and his back and could barely turn his head from side to side. I was afraid to get near him, but I wanted him to stop. Travis never hit me in the face, but he bruised other parts of my body. It was easy to shrug off a few visible bruises with my friends. I could blame it on, work or clumsiness. It only happened on 2 occasions. The second time was on a Tuesday in early April 2008. 2 men at the Tempe business briefing actually joked, "What is Travis beating you now?" We just laughed. Playing along with their joke was the only way to protect his reputation. I know it's common behavior for women in abusive relationships to protect their partner by covering for him or her and by making excuses. But I didn't see it so much like that. Travis and I were not in any kind of committed relationship at that point. He was not my partner any longer. It was only a matter of days before I rolled out of town in a U-Haul truck. By putting several hundred miles between us, any further opportunities for abuse, not to mention immoral conduct on both of our parts, would be prevented. But even when I moved away, he didn't let up. I stopped to sleep in Hollister, still hundreds of miles from my destination in Wairika, and Travis called me in the middle of the night, angry that I moved, angry that I dated other guys. It was so confusing to me because I thought we were on the same page and about me moving, and I knew how much he liked Mimi. We both knew we were never getting back together, but it was like he was determined not to let me off that easily. I really cared for him. His cruelty and abuse never knew it made me angry. It only invoked pity and remorse, and shame as well. For he acted that way out of pain, and the last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt him. I know you all probably hate me even more than before you started reading this letter. Well, hang on, because the plot thickens. And by the time you're done reading this, you most likely won't consider me worthy of your own spit. Travis told me that I'd hurt him more than the death of his father. He's not one to dramatize things, so I knew he'd been sincere when he said that. I didn't fully understand why he felt that way. How was it that he can date and have relationships, but if I did so, he branded me a whore? I knew he was hurting, but I didn't get it, especially since he liked Mimi Hall so much. Tanisha had made mention online that I was obsessed with Travis. Obsession would not be an accurate way to term it. But if obsessed means that I've cried every day since his death, then maybe there is some accuracy there. If obsessed means that I couldn't stay away, then there is a bit of truth in that. I could not say no to Travis. He would not let me escape his influential grasp. He called me at all hours of the night. And the reason that I was at his house so frequently was because he invited me over. Most of the time it was in the late evenings when the coast was clear. He would send me sweet text messages in the middle of the night, beckoning me to get out of bed and sneak over to his house. It was too hard to resist most times. If I didn't respond to solicitations, they would be followed by a heavy and relentless onslaught of the ultimate guilt trip. I know I should have been stronger for his own spiritual well-being and mine. Naturally, I was flattered that he was so attracted to me and wanted to spend time with me. Usually the feeling was quite mutual, but it became obvious, especially after our behavior continued, even after he met Mimi, that neither of us was going to be strong enough as long as we lived in such a close, convenient proximity. I've never regretted my decision to move back to California. There are, however, some decisions that I do regret, and I cannot tell you how remorseful that I am for my inactions. Let me clarify by saying the following. I had a trip planned to Southern California and Utah the week of June 2nd through the 6th of 2008. Travis found out and tried persuading me to come to Arizona instead to visit him. I told him that I just didn't have enough time. He acted sad and hurt and tried to guilt me into coming. I stood my ground, though, and said no, but I played up all the positives, like his impending trip to Northern California. We were going to check off 3 more things on the list of 1,000 places to see before you die, which were Crater Lake, although he's been there when he was very young. He wanted to re-experience it, the Oregon coast, and the Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon. But he refused to be consoled and just said, okay, whatever. I see how it is. You don't love me anymore. Just as usual rhetoric and guilt trip lingo, etc. We hung up the phone and I could feel my heart once again being pulled in his direction. I knew that if I went, we'd have fun. By the time I arrived in Pasadena, I made the decision to go to his house. I arrived in Mesa around 4 a.m. on Wednesday, June 4th, 2008. He was already expecting me and was very happy to see me. So was Naps. I missed them both so much. It had been months since I'd seen either of them. Travis was awake when I arrived. He waited up all night for me. He and Naps were in his office and he was watching some silly video on youtube.com. Some kind of dancing robot girls or something. I was exhausted from driving, so after a few more YouTube videos, we went to sleep as the sun was rising. We slept until about 1 p.m. When we woke up, among other things, we tried looking at photos from past church history trips. They were on 3 CDs that I had made a year prior, but they were pretty badly scratched. Not to mention Travis's laptop had recently contracted a virus and it was difficult to bring up the disk drive. He had instant Quaker oatmeal for lunch. I remember him as clear as daylight, sitting in his office chair, feet kicked out in his pajamas, eating oatmeal, waiting for his computer to accomplish a simple task, but having no luck. I sat on the floor next to him, petting Napoleon, looking around the room. The poem I'd written back in February was still on his whiteboard. Roses are red, violets are blue, T-Dog's the best, forget all the rest. Napoleon's pretty great too. Anyway, when we realized we weren't getting anywhere with the pictures, we went back upstairs. I took pictures of him in the shower, but they were tasteful pictures. We were going for a sort of Calvin Klein advertisement kind of look. Travis and I and the rest of the prepaid world knew about the Cancun trip a year prior when it was announced, but those who were eligible weren't announced until early in 2008. When we found out he was going, he began working double overtime on his body, and by May and June was feeling very confident in his own skin. If it weren't for that fact, he might not have agreed to do those shots. Who knows? From this point on, things are blurred and confusing. I was sitting/kneeling on the floor next to the shower, going through the pictures I'd taken when I heard a really loud pop. I must have been hit on the back of the head because the next thing I know, I was lying next to the bathtub. My ears were ringing and Travis was screaming, but he sounded so far away, although he was right next to me. I'm really sorry for this. I know you're going to hate me even more than you already do, but as hard as this is, I keep telling myself that for my brother, I want to know. When I came to, I saw two individuals standing near the bathroom, in the bedroom, right where the carpet ends and the tile begins. They both began walking toward us. My only thought was to run into the closet, possibly bypassing them so I could get out of the room via the other door, by his closet. But as I reached the other door, I was stopped by a male pointing a gun directly at my forehead. I was made to get on my knees near the armoire and was told not to move. By this time, I had surmised that the other perpetrator, now standing over Travis, was female, but people were wearing black ski masks, black gloves, and dark clothing, with the exception of the male who was wearing blue jeans. He left the room, and without much thought, I charged the female who was standing over Travis. I shoved her hard enough that she fell over Travis, who was conscious but quiet at this point, on all fours, with his right hand holding his head. The girl had fallen near the left sink, close to the trash can in the corner. I pulled on Travis, saying, "Come on, come on." He came forward lethargically, but wouldn't stand up, and he kept saying, "I can't." I only got him about halfway down the hallway of his bathroom. I kept urging him, but he said, "Go get help. Go to my neighbors." I didn't want to leave him. I felt like I was going to pass out. My whole body was tingling painfully all over, and I just kept pulling on him. At that point, I was crying, and I kept pleading, "Come on, please." He said, I can't feel my legs." The girl came at me with the knife, but I was able to grab her wrist. I was already weak, and I felt like I could hardly breathe. She tried kicking me repeatedly in the knees. I tried blocking her and holding her hands, but she was making repeated attempts to stomp on my feet, landing her target a few times. I was at an unfair advantage because she had shoes and I was in my bare feet. At the time, I didn't notice the pain. Maybe it was the adrenaline, but my left foot was later throbbing and bruised. So I know she got me at least once, probably more on that foot, and she had caused 2 of the toenails on my other foot to bleed, which I didn't discover until later as well. Again, probably adrenaline. We struggled, and I was able to throw her off of me again, but out of fear, I ran as she was about to double back and come after me. Again, I was stopped by the male perpetrator who had come back into the room. He yelled at her to stop. He said, "That's not what they're here for." I'm sorry about my handwriting. I'm shaking as I write this. She argued with him, saying they should, do me too. But he said, no. He asked who I was before I could respond. I could barely breathe by then, let alone speak. He grabbed my purse and began to go through it. I was on my knees in the bedroom. Travis was still midway in the hall of the bathroom, the female standing over him yelling at the male. He got out my wallet and looked at my driver's license. He took the cash that was in it, and besides gas receipts I'd accumulated up to that point of my trip. I had the registration to my car, which I no longer kept in my glove compartment because I cleaned my car out of all valuable items and paperwork because it was going back to the bank any day. The registration has the address of my parents' house printed clearly on it. He said to me as he began to stuff things back into my purse, "I know who you are and know where you live. I know exactly how to find you, and I can find your family. Unless you want them all to die, you keep silent, or I will silence you." I agreed, but the woman kept shouting and arguing with him. She was shouting as quietly as possible. He kept telling her to shut up, and that's not what they're there for. He finally gave under the pressure because he held the gun to my head and tried to fire, but nothing happened, just a click. I then shoved past him with my purse, which was then on the floor next to me. He seemed to make no effort to stop me. But as I flew down the stairs, I swear I could hear footsteps behind me. I ran out the front door, leaving behind my shoes and slamming the door as some last-ditch effort to create any kind of obstacle to slow down whoever was pursuing me. My rental car was parked in the driveway. I was shaking, hyperventilating, and crying. I kept my eye on the front door as I backed out and drove away. Awful, I know. I didn't look as I backed out. I probably should have never been driving in that kind of state. It wasn't heightened awareness, it was blind confusion. The front door never opened. I don't know what time it was when I left, but I'm guessing it was sometime between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. I just don't know. There were two young girls outside playing. I don't know if they noticed me. One was maybe 9 or 10 years old. The other looked maybe 13 or 14. I'm not good at guessing ages. They both had blonde hair and they were running west down Queensboro, on the north side of the street. That is one of the last details that I remember of Travis's neighborhood. When I left, Travis was alive, although he was hurt. My phone was dead, and as cowardly as this is, I probably wouldn't have called for help if I could have. I was racked with fear. I knew that if they were capable of doing what I'd seen them do, then they were capable of carrying out their threats. I did not harm Travis. I did not take his life. But looking back on the way that I acted, I might as well be held equally responsible for his death. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and 2 parents. But all I kept seeing was my dad and my youngest brother, and all I could think of was their safety. A huge part to me regrets my last-minute decision to go to Travis's. Part of me has faith in the notion that all things happen for a reason. I wish I could give you more. I did not commit a murder that day, nor would I ever harm Travis. The evidence against me was presented to me by Detective Flores, and there is a lot. The only explanation I have for that is this. I was there that day. I never committed a crime. Therefore, it never occurred to me that I would need to cover my tracks. Whoever did this came prepared. All I can say now is that I'm deeply remorseful for the pain you've been experiencing. If I could give my life in exchange for Travis's life so that he could live here again amongst the people that love him, I would do so without a shadow of hesitation. What happened that day was horrible, and I'm so sorry that I didn't have more courage to stop it or more power. My heart has ached to no end during this entire traumatic experience. Putting on a smile and pretending things were fine for my family didn't work out so well. I felt like I was a danger living near them and began to make preparations to move back to Monterey, where I lived 4 years ago. I loved Travis very much as a friend. We had our fair share of arguments, but I would never intentionally hurt him. I did hurt him emotionally, and for that I'm very sorry too. But above all, I hope you can find peace. I know that his killers are still at large, and each and every day I've been praying, not so much that they're brought to justice, but for my family's safety and protection. At the end of the day, I have to give it all to God. God is fair and just. And regardless of what the world believes, I'm so grateful that it's ultimately his opinion that counts. Again, I would never hurt Travis. He's shown me very little other than kindness and generosity. He would give me the world if he could. He assisted me in moving to and from Arizona. He let me store my books and artwork at his house when I had no room for them. He was constantly doing little things for me, just always full of thoughtfulness. We traveled to many places together, each determined to conquer the book, 1,000 Places to See Before You Die. I hesitate even mentioning all of the little knickknacks he'd accumulated that adorn his house as a result of our travels together, or through gifts from me that he treasured and proudly displayed, for fear it would taint your opinion of those same items, which are no doubt now in your possession. I know this letter may only raise more questions, but I hope it also answers others. Again, I know that God is just and fair. Ultimately, whoever did this will be held accountable. I think we can all agree on that much. Like I said, what prompted this letter is that I know you all deserve to know whatever information I have. I also feel that I should explain the following. There have been many comments made about my smile and my mugshot, which I was fully expecting. It was cocky, I know, but so was Travis. And anyone who knows Travis well enough knows he was cocky. Also knew of his happy and positive outlook on life. I knew of my own innocence, and so does our Father in heaven. For this reason, I cannot be sad. I also asked myself, what would Travis do? Barring the fact that he would likely not find himself in such an unfortunate set of circumstances, he would no doubt be flashing that smile of his that he always did. Like you, I wish I knew why all of this happened. Forensics can tell us what, but not always who, and nobody seems to know why. Detective Flores suggested a few possible motives, but to me, they don't make any sense. He said maybe I was angry or jealous. Travis has never done anything that would incite that kind of anger. As far as the physical way he retaliated during 2 arguments that we had, my own father has done worse to me as a means of discipline. The only other thing Travis has ever done to upset me was be unfaithful in our relationship, but nobody would expect me to be thrilled over it. I've forgiven him long ago. Either way, he'd have to get in the back of a line of ex-boyfriends who are guilty of those same folly in relationships with me. The detective said that perhaps I was jealous and that he was going to Cancun. As I mentioned, I'd known about that trip since last year. There's no way I could break up with a guy and then expect him to take me on a trip of that magnitude. The idea of accompanying Travis on a trip to Cancun was as short-lived as a snowflake in Mesa during the month of July. There was never any question or discussion of us going together. I just don't harbor any hostility toward Travis, and I never have. I know that we both struggled to move on, but we both wanted the other to be happy. Travis was a good man. Our relationship was never perfect, but it taught me so much. Knowing Travis has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. I know it would bring you a great sense of closure to know that his killers were brought to justice. Ultimately, the persons responsible will be held accountable. I, however, will not serve 1 day in prison for a heinous crime in which I had no part. Travis lives. He is not far, and it won't be long before you can see him again. One day, all of our questions will be answered, and I just hope you can all find peace. My prayers are with you and have been since the inception of this nightmare, and so are the prayers of many. With deepest sympathy and humble sincerity, Jodi and Arias. And your sorrow shall be turned into joy. John 16:20. So that was there's so much to unpack from that letter, and I really don't have time to do it. But one thing I did want to point out is that Jodi, describing what happened about the male and the female, fighting. I find it interesting that she described a male and a woman fighting. And I think that she was giving us a partial truth of what happened. Except she's the female and Travis is the male. And she was describing their actual struggle. But she was the aggressor, because remember in the story that she told, the female was the aggressor and the male was the compliant one, the one that could be, dominated. So I think that she was partially describing her behavior. And then the parts that she wanted to deflect from, or that she didn't want to take full accountability for, that's when she goes into the fog and I don't remember what happened. But what really offended me in this story is her cockiness and her proclaiming, you know, how sad and depressed she is and that she's a victim, and that, you know, Travis was a great guy, except for the time when he hit me twice. Except for the time that he cheated on me. I didn't want to destroy his reputation, but Travis held me as his little secret. You know, you're my little secret. That's how we should keep it. She held me as a little secret while he was pursuing this female, this female, this female. And I'm so thankful for him giving me the gospel, which we didn't really adhere to anyway, because we broke the law of chastity repeatedly. That was what she could not resist, even though she wouldn't actually come out and say it, because Jodi is a coward. And, you know, she's not going to spend one day in prison for a heinous crime that she had no part in. Hate to tell you, you're there for your natural life. Getting fat, eating bonbons, eating little Debbie cakes, and acting strange for some change. With no air conditioning in Arizona. And all you have left are memories of the multitude of sexual conquests from coast to coast that you've had. And I truly believe, though, if Travis really wanted and was serious about Jodi, they'd be married with kids to this day. I think she was tired of being labeled a whore. She was tired of, you know, being shunned by the man that she loved, and she just snapped. But anyway, that's going to be the conclusion of my Master Bitch Theater, my Jodi Arias edition. This is, you know, one of my favorite, absolute favorite cases. Jodi Arias was the most interesting until Darrell Brooks's case. This is the trial I listen to, you know, at night when I go to sleep, because I enjoy it so much, and it's great, you know, background. But now, you know, Darrell has taken that void that has been in my life, and I cannot go back to other trials. I mean, I might at some point look at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard, and of course, you know, I'm going to still be on what's her name, on Sarah Boone. And also, I'm going to circle back to Leticia. I'm going to probably critique her. What did she do? Her interrogation. She's so hard to listen to with all that yada, yada, yada and rambling about freaking nothing. Nothing. It gives me a headache. You know, again, and you know, we was going to the store, and Gannon had a stomach ache, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna leave him home by himself, and there was a fire. I was like, Anywho, I want to thank you all for your support, and for those of you guys who always comes to my live streams or to my uploads. I really appreciate you guys so much. If you have any more Master Bitch Theaters that you would like me to cover, please put it in my comments, and I will definitely attempt to get to them, you know, as soon as I can. I just had a little bit of time, and, you know, I promised you guys some more content. So that's what I'm doing for you. All right. You guys have a wonderful weekend, a prosperous next week. If I don't talk to you guys, then I plan on going live with Darrell this weekend, hopefully. But have a wonderful weekend, and drums, please.
Drums, please.
Attributions.